Okay. Court TV asked if we could move the TV a little bit because it was blocking their view of Detective Howard. Is that still in a position where everybody's able to see it on both ends? Okay? Okay. Detective Howard, before we took a break, I was showing you a still from exhibit number 2, which is the Drew Hernandez video number 029, which was focused on Mr. Rosenbaum. Do you recall that?
Yes.
I'm now going to show on the screen exhibit number 24, which is a sort of a blown up and enhanced photo of that scene of Mr. Rosenbaum. And again, Detective Howard, does that show the plastic bag that Mr. Rosenbaum was carrying around on the evening of August 25th, 2020?
That's what it appears to be, yes.
All right. Now I would like to show exhibit number 9, which is the aerial surveillance video from the FBI. We can pause that, please. Can you now please play exhibit number 26? And now if we can please play exhibit number 25. Brian, can we go back to the beginning of that and then pause, please? I'm going to replay it. Yes, of that same video. Detective Howard, the video that we just watched here at the beginning of the video, let's keep a pause there for a second. There are two individuals identified. One has a circle around them with the label person of interest 1. The second has a square around them with a label of person of interest 2. Do you see that?
Yes.
Based on your investigation, your review of all of the other videos, who are those two individuals?
Person of interest 1 is Joseph Rosenbaum, and person of interest 2 is Kyle Rittenhouse.
Now, can you please play the video again, Brian? Thank you. Your Honor, I have a number of exhibits that I've just used. I believe they are exhibits 1, the Drew Hernandez video 023, exhibit number 2, the Drew Hernandez video 029, exhibit number 4, the Zeminski after Rosenbaum shooting video, exhibit number 5, the BG on the scene video, exhibit number 6, the CJTV running video, exhibit number 8, the Elijah riot video. Exhibit number 9 was just played. It has already been admitted into evidence. That is the FBI video. Exhibit number 12, which is the Kyle Cook video. Exhibit number 13, which is the Lakota Lichtwalt live stream. Exhibit number 14, which is the Reg Incognito live stream. Exhibit 15, Richie McGinnis at Rosenbaum's body. Exhibit 16, Richie McGinnis Kyle interview. Number 17, Richie McGinnis walking with Kyle. Number 18, rundown live video. And number 19, the Drew Hernandez shooting video. I would move, also there is exhibit 24, which is a photo of Joseph Rosenbaum in the plastic bag. Exhibit 25, an FBI video with markings annotated at normal speed, and then exhibit number 26, which is a second FBI video with markings, which shows the, it's a 5-second clip from second 23 to second 28. I would move all of those exhibits into evidence.
No, there isn't, Your Honor.
Proceed.
The testimony that you've provided today, Detective Howard, and the videos that we've seen of all of these events that you identified as occurring in the area of Sheridan Road between approximately 59th Street and 63rd Street, did everything that we've heard about and seen in this case occur here in the city and county of Kenosha in the state of Wisconsin?
Yes.
We have also heard testimony regarding a person who we've identified as the defendant, Kyle-Rittenhouse. Do you see him here in court?
Yes.
Can you point him out for us, please?
He's the gentleman sitting at the corner of that table between Mr. Sharafsky and Ms. Wisco.
I have nothing further.
I will eventually, thank you. You're a detective with the Kenosha Police Department?
Yes.
You work for the Kenosha Police Department?
Yes.
How long have you been a detective?
Almost 3 years.
Before that, you're a patrol officer?
Yes.
You don't work for the district attorney's office, correct?
Correct.
Your job is to gather facts so that, in some cases, they can be presented to citizens of Kenosha to make a determination on the guilt or innocence of criminal defendants, correct?
Yes.
And that is supposed to be done without prejudice or fear or favor, correct?
Yes.
And it's, as Joe Friday used to say in the old days, just the facts, correct?
Yes.
Now, in this case, you are one of the lead detectives,
Yes.
and you put innumerable amounts of time into this case, correct?
Yeah. Months.
Months. And before August 23rd, there were 3 car sources in Kenosha, Wisconsin, correct?
Yes.
The first one was burnt to the ground on the night of the 24th, correct?
Yes.
the second car source where Kyle-Rittenhouse and other individuals were protecting and there was video shown, that was an ongoing business back on the 24th, correct?
Yes.
And it wasn't boarded up like it's shown in the videos, correct?
Correct.
That was boarded up because of the civil unrest that was occurring in Kenosha.
Correct.
And going on to car source 3, where the first shooting happened, that was an ongoing business, not boarded up, not damaged, correct?
Correct.
Now, in gathering evidence in cases like this, routinely, you go out and you freeze a crime scene and you get as much evidence, you take time, you photograph things, and you get it all so that it's all preserved is the right word, correct?
Correct.
In this case, because of the chaos on the night of the 25th into the morning of the 26th, that wasn't able to be done. Fair statement?
Not to the degree that we typically do. Correct.
I'm not trying to put blame but I want this jury to be able to understand the situation that was going on in Kenosha at that time. Is it routine for a small contained homicide scene to not be able to find shell casings and have to go back 3 days later when they're pointed out by citizens?
That's not routine. It was 4 days later.
Oh, I apologize. So even longer.
Yeah.
And a citizen said, hey, there's shell casings under this car. You guys should come out and get them.
Yes.
Okay? So it wasn't the standard thorough investigation where you guys put the cones down, you photograph everything, and then you could bring all that forward, correct?
Evidence techs gathered what they were able to observe that night. The evidence technicians were gathering what they were able to observe that night.
Okay. And what I'm getting at is there was nothing hiding those shell casings if they had done a thorough inspection, looked under the cars and things like that, correct?
Correct.
It is a car lot.
Correct.
Now, you went and got a bunch of information in this case through documents. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
You did multiple search warrants.
Yes.
You did multiple subpoenas for records, correct?
Correct.
And a lot of those search warrants were directed at my client's social media, correct?
Correct.
His telephone.
Correct.
I'm sure I'm going to miss some, but Instagram, TikTok, all of those.
Yes.
Multiple email addresses.
Yes. Google.
And Facebook.
Yes.
And that's so you can get as much background on the individual who is the suspect, correct?
Correct.
That's all done after that night.
Correct.
And that's not something you really have to worry about in the short term going away. You get the subpoenas to these computer companies, it's there, they provide it to you, you get it, correct?
Yeah, the first thing we'll typically do is send a preservation letter to preserve the records, and then a search warrant and subpoena. Those can come a little bit further down the road.
And you get all that information so that you're able to provide the jury a full and complete picture of a suspect or a defendant.
Yes, to the best that we can.
And you've looked through all those documents.
Yes.
Now, in this case, there's a lot of, how should I say it, interest in subjects' cell phones, correct?
Yes.
And cell phones are, for lack of a better word, mini computers that have videos, personal thoughts, just about anything that a person did. Fair statement?
Yes.
And in this case, you got numerous individuals' cell phones, either through consent, where the person said, I have nothing to hide, here, have my cell phone.
Yes.
And there were some times where you talked to people and you said, look, if you don't let us have consent, we're going to have to get a search warrant, but you're not leaving here with your phone unless we've downloaded it, correct?
Something to that degree, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not faulting you, I don't care, okay? But it's an investigatory technique that law enforcement uses, correct?
Correct.
Consent, search warrant, one or the other.
Yes.
And you hold the phone so that if they don't consent, nothing can be destroyed, deleted.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If they consent, you have somebody in your department who's main duty is downloading cell phones.
Yes.
There are some cell phones that are not, if I use the wrong word, crackable?
Correct.
Okay, and that means that unless you have the exact finger code or a fingerprint or something, it can't be opened, correct?
Yes, Mr. Rittenhouse's phone was on the latest iOS, and there was not software available at that time.
Okay, iOS stands for,
It's an Apple update
okay,
for an iPhone.
but it's an operating system, it's a type.
Yes.
Okay, and back in 2020, when you seized Mr. Rittenhouse's phone, you wanted to get in the phone, you immediately sent it to the FBI so that it could be opened or cracked, and they told you they couldn't do that, correct?
Correct.
And myself and Mr. Rittenhouse found out about that, correct?
Correct.
And we said, you want to get in his phone? We'll give you the code as long as we get a copy of whatever you take, correct?
Correct.
And those arrangements were made, and his phone was downloaded.
Correct.
So there's nothing hidden.
Correct.
Now, in this case, you got a search warrant on September 24th. I apologize. In this case, on September 23rd of 2020, you got a signed search warrant from Judge Wagner for Gage Groskowitz's phone, correct?
Correct.
And that was in preparation for a meeting that was going to occur on September 24th between yourself, Gage Groskowitz, his lawyer, and members from the district attorney's office, correct?
I believe that to be correct, but I was not able to attend that meeting.
Okay, who attended it?
Detective Antaramian, and I'm not sure who else.
Okay.
But
The meeting was in person,
yes.
okay? So search warrant in one hand, correct?
Yes.
Telephone of Mr. Groskowitz, presumably in Mr. Groskowitz's hand.
Yes.
And for some reason, that search warrant was never served on Mr. Groskowitz and his phone taken, correct?
Correct.
So you have a video from Mr. Groskowitz's phone, correct?
Correct.
But you don't have the download of his telephone, correct?
No.
And you wanted the download of his phone, correct?
Yes.
You wanted the information that was in that phone.
Yes.
You had a search warrant to get all the information in that phone,
Yes.
and yet you didn't execute it,
No, I did not.
okay? Do you know why it wasn't executed?
Concerns with Marcy's Law?
Who had the concerns with Marcy's Law?
Several of us did. I did. Attorneys did.
When you say attorneys, you're talking about Attorney Binger, correct?
Correct.
Marcy's Law is the Victim Rights Amendment, correct?
Correct.
And have you ever not executed a search warrant because of Marcy's Law?
No.
Okay, this is the first time ever.
Yes.
Is it the last time ever?
I can't foresee the future. But
Since that date, September 24th of 2020 to today, have you ever not executed a signed search warrant by a judicial officer of Kenosha County because of some concern of Marcy's Law?
no.
Yeah. And there was also objections from his attorney who didn't want to give it over to you, correct?
Correct.
When you interviewed Dominic Black, you're shaking your head no?
No, Detective Antaramian interviewed Dominic Black. I interviewed Wendy Faith and Mackenzie Rittenhouse at that time.
You interviewed Dominic Black on, I believe it was November 6th.
Well, the follow-up interview, yes.
Okay, that was when he was under arrest, correct?
Yes.
And that interview was taped, correct?
Yes.
The interview with Breton, and I'm going to butcher his name, the individual who's responsible for BG on the scene.
That's Brendan Gutenschwager.
Okay, you said it, thank you.
Yeah.
When you interviewed him, that was taped.
I believe so.
The interview, and I'm not saying you interviewed him, but the interview of Richie McGinnis in the Kenosha Police Department, that was taped.
I believe so.
When the interview was performed with Mr. Groskowitz and his attorney, Ms. Motley, that interview wasn't taped,
I don't believe so.
okay? Can you think of any other witnesses in this case, complaining witnesses, whose interviews and information was not taped?
Other complaining witnesses?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And just so the record's clear, no one has ever interviewed Jump Kick Man, correct?
Correct.
No one's ever been able to identify him.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
He's never come forward and complained to law enforcement that he felt as though he was somehow the victim of a crime on August 25th.
Correct, he has
He
not
nev-
come forward.
And he never came. You tried to identify him.
We tried.
You tried showing his picture around, asking numerous people.
Yes.
Now, you testified about Mr. Zeminski, correct?
Correct.
Now, after getting a bunch of the videos, which you did get, you review those and you realize, correct me if I'm wrong, that Kyle-Rittenhouse did not fire the first shot.
Correct.
And through some Facebook sleuthing, it's brought out that an individual by the name of Alec Blaine was the individual who, in fact, had done or fired the first shot on the 25th.
Yeah, I believe it was Alex Blaine was going around social media and different outlets, but yeah, I saw that name on the internet.
Okay, and through getting his picture off Facebook, that picture was circulated around your department,
Yes.
and he was a known individual, and somebody says, that's not Alec Blaine, that's Joshua Zeminski.
Correct.
And do you know who that was?
Information was forwarded to our gang crimes unit at the time, and I believe they had a resource in Milwaukee that they helped coordinate identification with, and through that coordinated effort, we were able to get that identification.
And now we all agree that it was Mr. Blake who fired one shot.
You said Mr. Blake?
I apologize. Mr. Zeminski, the real name, who fired a shot shortly before Mr. Rosenbaum was shot by Kyle.
Yes.
Now, on direct examination, you were asked a question about the timing from Zeminski's shot to Kyle's shot, correct?
Correct.
You did that with a stopwatch,
Yes.
so it's a human act,
Yes.
okay? And the Wisconsin State Crime Lab has numerous individuals who can break down video, correct?
Yes.
You can do a frame-by-frame analysis of the video, and that can tell you frames per second, and you can come within hundredths of a second of what happened, correct?
Correct.
And whether Mr. Zeminski was on the sidewalk or Mr. Zeminski was on the beginning of the parking lot, where you see the flash on the video is behind Kyle Rittenhouse, correct?
At that time, yes.
Okay, and the shot goes off, and it's in close proximity, 30 feet,
Yes.
okay? And from behind him.
Yes.
And you were asked questions by Mr. Binger about Mr. Rosenbaum and your information regarding him. And he named a series of weapons, gun, knife, I think there was even a bat or something like that. In your extensive review of the videos, there were numerous times where Mr. Rosenbaum was armed, correct?
I can recall him carrying a chain
Okay.
at one point.
And to the best of your ability and investigation, that chain came from a trailer in that church.
From the St. James campus area.
And the St. James, we're talking about the rubble and things like that.
Yes.
And that was an area where there's numerous videos of people going and arming themselves with projectiles, rocks, or busted up cement.
Yes.
And that was where Mr. Rosenbaum and Mr. Zeminski got the trailer to bring down Sheridan Road to start the fire, correct?
Correct.
And that's where Mr. Zeminski and Mr. Rosenbaum are bent over, starting the clump of debris and things like that in the road on fire with the trailer up on its side.
Yes.
And that's where Mr. Rosenbaum is wearing a blue mask, correct?
Correct.
And that's what would commonly be referred to as a baklava or a shield that goes from his neck to down to his shoulder area, correct?
Correct.
Not the maroon shirt that he was wearing on his head as a mask when he was shot by my client.
Correct.
Now, as you said, you've been a detective for 3 years. It's against the law to use physical force against a citizen of Kenosha to try and steal their property from them, correct?
Correct.
That would be what's called strong arm robbery.
Correct.
It's a more serious crime if you attempt to do that while you are masked. That's what's called a criminal enhancer, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to back up a little bit to your direct examination. You talked, in response to Mr. Binger's questions, about the pumps being turned off at gas stations, correct?
Correct.
Now, that isn't something that was publicized or everybody knew, correct?
Correct.
So the crowd and people who were protecting the ultimate gas station didn't necessarily know that the pumps were off.
They may not have. Yeah.
You didn't broadcast it.
Correct.
And you testified about going out in an unmarked squad car on patrol
Yes, and various things.
for various things. There was not a patrol police presence in the downtown area on the 25th, really, was it?
There was some patrol.
Were anybody walking the beat?
Not walking. No.
Okay. And they were in unmarked squad cars.
We had unmarked and marked squad
Okay.
cars.
In the videos during the evening from, say, 9 o'clock until midnight when this happens, you don't see any police cars on the street, correct?
Well, we tried to surveil from a distance away.
Okay.
Gather as much information without.
Without making yourself public or
Yes.
known.
Yes.
And the night before, on the 24th, there was limited or no response by emergency personnel. That's why Car Source 1 burnt to the ground, correct?
We had to prioritize to go to certain calls.
I understand, sir. I'm not trying to second guess anybody. I'm trying to set the scene that evening and the night before. Nobody went to Car Source, what I refer to as 1, the lot that was wiped out, with fire trucks to put it out, correct?
Correct. We were not responding to just property damage at that time.
Now, you interviewed BG on the scene, Breton Gradschweiger, and he was interviewed at the Kenosha Police Department.
Correct.
And in your interview of him, immediately you read him his Miranda rights, correct?
Correct.
And that was because when he was arrested, there was talk of 1, a curfew ticket, correct?
Correct.
And 2, he was found with marijuana.
I actually do not recall the marijuana aspect of that.
You're not disputing that, are you?
I'm not going to dispute it.
Okay. And he gives a statement. There was discussion in that one about downloading his phones and camera.
Correct.
And that was done.
I believe for that he was able to airdrop his video to my work cell phone.
Okay, so he provided you with everything you wanted from his phone,
Yes.
and you did not have to get a search warrant, correct?
Correct.
And you leave the interview, and you said on the tape, you call somebody, and you tell Mr. Guttenschweiger when you come back in that you don't have to cite him or arrest him for the marijuana because you spoke to somebody at the DA's office and he can go home that night. Do you remember that?
Not verbatim. No.
Do you remember telling him he got to go home and he wasn't going to be held overnight arrested?
Yes.
Okay? You don't arrest somebody for a curfew violation. You give them a ticket, correct?
Correct. That's a forfeiture.
Right. So there had to be some criminal activity, or when he was done being interviewed, he could have just went home. You can't threaten somebody with arrest when you're interviewing.
He was located past curfew, and taken into custody and brought into the police department. And that's what started my interview with him.
And when he was arrested, he had marijuana in his person, correct?
Correct.
You have no ability to make promises or give consideration for cooperation, correct?
We wanted the video more than to cite him for curfew or marijuana.
Okay. Who did you get permission from to not charge him with the marijuana?
I don't recall getting permission. It may have been a decision that Detective Antaramian and I made.
Okay.
I don't recall getting permission for that. That may have been a decision that Detective Antaramian and I made.
And you, that evening, are made lead detective along with Detective Antaramian on this case.
Yes.
And you receive information that your person who has not been identified yet has turned himself into the Antioch Police Department.
Correct.
And you and Detective Antaramian, go down to Antioch, Illinois.
Correct.
You talk to the people who are there about when he got there, correct?
Correct.
And that was at approximately 1:20 a.m., correct?
Correct.
So that would have been 1 hour and 30 minutes from the time of the shooting.
Correct.
And you get down there at what time?
At approximately 3:30.
Okay, so he'd been there for a little over 2 hours, 2 hours and 10 minutes when you get there, correct?
Correct.
And was he in handcuffs?
No.
Was he locked up in a holding cell?
No.
He was sitting in the unlocked lobby of the Antioch Police Department with his mother waiting for you.
Yes.
The Antioch Police didn't have somebody sitting on him.
I don't know.
You walked in there and there wasn't a police officer sitting next to him, was there?
I do not recall that.
And you documented the injuries on Kyle?
Yes.
And I guess what the state is getting at is the injuries weren't serious, so he shouldn't have shot. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. When you're being kicked in the head, you don't know what's going to happen to you. Is that a fair statement?
Fair.
Okay. When somebody's hitting you in the back of the head the second time with a skateboard, you don't know what's happening to you, correct?
Correct.
When somebody puts their bare hand on your firearm, trying to take it away from your person, you don't know whether or not that person is going to get your gun and turn it and use it on you, correct?
You don't know. No. Correct.
And it's a general training principle. You don't give up your gun because it's a deadly and dangerous weapon, correct?
I'm going to object to this line here. This is not an expert witness, and that this last question is about training for police officers, which is not relevant.
Rephrase your question.
Sir, if a weapon is taken from somebody, it can be used against them as a deadly and dangerous weapon, correct?
Correct.
Now, you looked at, let's see, Exhibit 18, and the prosecutor showed you 1 hour and 25 minutes into it at approximately 10 seconds. I'll get it up on the screen. One 25:10. This one doesn't.
It's not on yet.
Yeah. I'm gonna put this back where I got it for me because otherwise I'll lose it and take it like I do it out my house. It's on. Yeah.
Y'all trying to burn shit down for what? We all gotta live here. Thanks, guys.
Back away from the business. I can't see the time on. A minute and 1 hour, 24 minutes and 30 seconds from the back end.
Progressions. Organized.
That was 124.20 with back end.
I'll see if I can do it this way. You remember in the video when the dumpster's out in the street and Kyle goes out and grabs the dumpster?
Yes.
Okay, and when Kyle pulls the dumpster back, the person who's filming takes the camera and shows an individual standing in the street staring at my client in the dumpster, correct?
I would like to see the video again, just to
Okay.
be sure.
Found it. It's not on the screen. Okay. Ready?
One of the guys losing his patience. He should go inside.
Yeah, that's what we're about to send him.
Yeah, if you guys could switch him out. Just that somebody's loose cannon. He's got a lot of rage. He says.
Showing you the rundown live, exhibit number 18, 1:23:55 into the video. Standing right here, who is this?
That is Kelly Zeminski.
Okay, please continue.
Protect your property. They're respecting that. Just keep it there.
We're not the enemy. Fuck the police. Let's go.
Zeminski. Go back 40 seconds. Go ahead.
Gonna be on the street. They're just protecting their property. One of the guys is an asshole.
I know. I thought they were yelling at them. I was like, why?
Oh, no,
These guys
well-
were.
Well, we did because they lit it on
One
fire.
of the guys losing his patience.
You know who this is right here? I'm pointing with the pointer.
I believe that's Joshua Zeminski.
Okay. This is the dumpster right here.
If that's the dumpster you're referring to, yes.
Right. Continue on.
Yeah, if you guys could switch him on, because somebody's got loose cannon. He's got a lot of rage. He said the wrong thing. This whole property, you guys alive. Protect your property. They're respecting that. Just keep it there.
We're not the enemy. Fuck the police. Let's go.
He's just trying to protect his property. He doesn't want anything. He has no problem with you guys. He just doesn't want anyone to burn down his shit. I can't blame him.
out to get the dumpster out of the street, correct?
Correct.
That dumpster came from Car Source 2's lot, correct?
I don't know that.
Okay, continue on.
Understand? Hey, your job isn't to be in the street. You guys stand your
That's him pulling a dumpster out of the street.
Correct.
Continue on.
property. That's why you got problems already with people.
Stop. Who's this?
It's Joshua Zeminski.
He's standing in front of Car Source 3, looking directly at Car Source 3, correct?
Correct.
In the direction of the dumpster being brought back by my client.
He's looking more towards the videographer.
Okay.
I think Mr.
Right to
Rittenhouse
his
is
right would be where the dumpster is, correct?
correct.
And he stands there, and we know that he's armed, correct?
Correct.
And in viewing all the videos that you viewed, putting out fires upset these individuals who were starting the fires. Is that a fair statement?
That's fair.
Exhibit 8, please. On direct examination, you were asked questions about non-lethal, correct?
Correct.
And that was in response to my client saying the statement about they didn't have any non-lethal, correct?
Correct.
And that non-lethal also doesn't mean nightsticks, OC spray, and things like that. There are what are considered non-lethal bullets.
Can you say that again?
There are bullets that are meant to kill, dismember, maim, correct?
Correct.
There are also bullets that go in firearms that are what are referred to as non-lethal.
Yeah, rubber bullets?
Yes.
Could be one of those projectiles, yes.
And as far as you know, none of the people out there that evening, like my client who were protecting property and themselves, were armed with non-lethal bullets, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
The reg incognito video at approximately 3:58 p.m. 3:58 into the video, excuse me. Three hours 59:55 seconds. $3:59.
Oh,
It's back. No, 50. I have 3:59.50. That's what I wrote down.
And this is 3:59.
Then try 3:58. I'm sorry.
So the white dude I was just talking to, or whatever he is right here, he just got his phone slapped. He got his phone slapped at him and socked at the same time. This dude right here, walking away. This dude right here got his phone slapped and blindsided.
Stop. Just hear that yell 3 times. Friendly, friendly, friendly.
Yes.
Based upon your investigation, who is that?
That appears to be Mr. Rittenhouse.
Okay. And that's when he's being chased by Mr. Rosenbaum.
I don't know if it's right before the chase, but approximately the start of the chase time is when that audio appears to come out.
Okay. And that would be something to say to someone, I don't have a beef with you, friendly, friendly.
Yes.
And that didn't dissuade Mr. Rosenbaum, based upon your investigation and viewing of the videos, from continue to attempt to attack my client, correct?
Correct.
And as my client is running from Mr. Rosenbaum, is he gaining ground on Mr. Rosenbaum, or is Mr. Rosenbaum gaining ground on him?
Looks like Mr. Rosenbaum is gradually gaining ground on Mr. Rittenhouse.
And Mr. Rosenbaum is running towards my client, and my client turns around and points the gun in his direction, does not level it at him, but makes it very clear that he's armed to Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Rosenbaum is not dissuaded by that firearm and continues to chase after my client.
He stops briefly and then continues to run again.
He doesn't stop like I'm standing here and say, contemplating life's realities, like maybe I should pick a better course of action. He slows his gait and then continues on after Kyle, correct?
Correct.
And Kyle runs, I'm terrible with my directions, in a southwesterly direction through the car source, correct?
Correct.
And you've seen the Lucas Zandon video, correct?
Correct.
And even in this video, you hear like a bang, bang, bang repeatedly, correct?
Correct.
And based upon your investigation, what is that?
Those are bats or other blunt objects hitting cars in the car source lot.
And in the Lucas Zandon video, which is a little over 7 minutes, that's taken from the 63rd, looking in a northeasterly direction into the car source.
Yes, mainly north.
Okay, and there's well more than 50 people there bashing car windows, jumping on cars, and starting a fire there.
So I'd say there's more than 50 people there, but it might be a little less than that with people that are actually doing property damage, because there are a lot of people that are standing around.
Because there
as
probably
well.
weren't enough cars for everybody to beat on. Is that a fair statement?
I'm going to object. That's argumentative.
I don't think it's argumentative. Like,
The objection's overruled.
there were only so many cars, correct?
There's a certain number of cars in the car source lot,
Okay.
correct?
And back when Car Source was a running business, those weren't junk cars. They were real cars of somebody's property, correct?
There were cars for sale.
And correct me if I'm wrong, did you ever hear any of these rioters give an explanation for why destroying somebody's property is going to make their situation or Mr. Blake's situation better?
I'm going to object. It calls for hearsay.
Well, one of the exceptions to the hearsay rule is a plan or a statement of intent. So the objection's overruled.
I've not heard a reason.
Now, the video of Car Source that's shown from the FBI fixed-wing aircraft, that's at 9,000 feet, correct?
I can't recall the exact, I think it was, you said 8,500?
89?
Yeah.
I mean,
High.
hi, okay,
Yes.
you and I will agree on that. And you
Yes.
could see this bag clear as day flying through it, correct? Flying through the air.
The plastic bag?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And there was also, we're right here. That's the video we're talking about. And here's the pointer, excuse me. This right here, I'm pointing in the lower right-hand corner of the television. There's a number, 8,941 feet, correct?
Yes, it was in between I said 8,500, you said 9,000.
Okay, so, and here is the latitude, longitude.
Yes.
And this cursor, according to your information, is what controls the camera. Where they put that cursor, the camera locks onto that and the plane keeps moving, correct?
That's what it appears to, that appears to control the direction of the camera,
Here,
yes.
we have a heat
We have a heat source.
We see some white there, yes.
which would mean hot.
Yes.
And here, in the car, which I'll refer to as the Duramax, at the northeast corner of car source, we also have a heat source.
Yes.
And there's a video of an individual right before my client gets there, starting that Duramax on fire.
Yes.
Do you have? This exhibit is what number? No, this exhibit, that's up. This exhibit 9, the FBI video from a distance, correct?
Yes.
You've looked at this on numerous occasions.
Yes.
And probably the best way to find somebody on this video is to go backwards. So we know where the shooting was, correct?
Yes.
And so you follow it backwards. That's how you identify Kyle. That's how you identify Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
That and relating it to other videos.
Exactly.
Yes.
And in this video, you're able to get Mr. and Mrs. Zeminski also, correct?
Yes.
Could I have our exhibit, please? In our video, there is a green for Kelly Zeminski, there's a red, and we'll roll this, and a white. Go ahead, please. Stop. This blue circle between what I would say the second and third row of cars, Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
Correct.
This red is Mr. Zeminski, green Mrs.,
Yes.
white Kyle.
Yes.
And Richie McGinnis is to the left of the television screen, correct?
To the right.
In pink.
To the right of the television screen.
To the right. Sorry. Roll it, please. Stop. As Kyle, the white circle, comes to the Duramax, this individual, Mr. Rosenbaum, begins to come out of his hiding place.
Yes, he comes around the vehicle at that time.
And he's masked,
Yes.
and he comes around, roll. Stop. Blue, again, Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
Correct.
And now you begin with the chase, Mr. Rosenbaum of Kyle-Rittenhouse, correct?
Correct.
Stop, not yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this looks like a classic ambush.
I'm going to object as to the calling for the defendant's interpretation of things. The jury can make their own decision as to what the...
Sustained.
Okay. Mr. Rosenbaum is in hiding as my client arrives, correct?
It appears so, yes.
My client gets to this side of the Duramax, which would be the far side from Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
Can you repeat that, please?
My client comes to the far side of the Duramax from Mr. Rosenbaum.
On the opposite
correct?
side of Mr. Rosenbaum, yes.
And his circle, my client is stationary, and his circle is closing on my client's circle, Mr. Rittenhouse, correct?
Correct.
And according to this video, which we don't have sound because it's from 9,000 feet, this is right about the time where Kyle yells, "Friendly, friendly."
Friendly, friendly, friendly.
Yes.
Yes.
And it does not dissuade Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
Correct.
Roll the tape. Stop. Kyle goes out into the road, goes back into the car source lot with him, meaning Mr. Rosenbaum, following, correct?
Correct.
Where's Mr. Zeminski in this?
He's on the sidewalk. It's going to be just north of the blue circle, and that's going to be going right, from left to right on that screen. No, the other direction. To the right of the blue circle on that screen.
Okay, so right here?
No, to the right of the blue
Right
circle,
here?
yes.
Exactly. I mean, almost directly behind Kyle to the side of Mr. Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Okay, roll. Stop. This is Mr. McGinnis. I'm
Yes.
pointing- This is Mr. and Mrs. Zeminski.
Yes.
She's very identifiable because she's got a big backpack on her back.
Yes.
Continue. Stop. This does not depict the shot, correct?
This appears to be just before.
Okay. Continue. You don't see the flash of Mr. Zeminski's gun in the thermal, correct?
I did not see it, no.
Okay. But we know from other videos, there's one a sound and two a flash.
Yes, in multiple videos, yes.
Mr. Zeminski didn't come forward and complain about my client's behavior that day, correct?
Correct.
He didn't come forward and complain and say that I had to shoot him to scare him or something like that, correct?
He did not come forward, correct.
And after my client shoots Joseph Rosenbaum 3 times in 76 hundredths of a, 4 times, 4 shots in 76 hundredths of a second, the Zeminskis, when that shooting is going on, they don't run away, they don't hide.
It was 76 tenths of a second.
76 tenths.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me. The Zeminskis don't run away and hide. They're not afraid of the gunshots, correct?
Correct.
And they stay right there and they start yelling. Mr. Zeminski still has his gun out. And Mrs. Zeminski starts yelling about get him, things like that about Kyle, correct?
Correct.
The mob is closing in on Kyle.
There are multiple people closing in on Kyle.
Okay.
Mr. Rittenhouse.
And that's, I apologize, Mr. Rittenhouse. And that's closing in on him at the car source parking lot, correct?
It appears that at the car source, that people are coming towards Mr. Rosenbaum. And yes, there's people that are shouting in the direction of Mr. Rittenhouse. I'd say it's more clear once he starts running northbound that there are people following him.
Okay. But strike that. And you did the reconstruction with a stopwatch. You didn't do it a frame by frame.
Correct.
And at 1 minute into the Drew Hernandez video, which is number exhibit 19, you hear somebody yell at Kyle, "Get the fuck out of here," correct?
I don't recall hearing that.
Could it? I've got it at 1-0. You can start at 50 seconds. At 50 seconds, please listen closely. And Kyle then is running down Sheridan Road in a northerly direction.
Correct.
He, in all the videos you see, he doesn't point his firearm at anybody, correct?
At certain times, he points his firearms at people.
I asked a terrible question. It's late in the day. I apologize. As he's running down Sheridan Road in a northerly direction before event number 2, which is the shooting of the unidentified individual, Huber and Groskwitz, you don't see him pointing the gun, doing any of this, menacing with the firearm to people around him, correct?
I believe there was just a slight raise when he was still on that west sidewalk of Sheridan Road, and it seemed like something west of him on 62nd Street caught his attention. I remember he turned to his left. There may have been a slight raise of the rifle at that point.
Didn't fire.
No, not at that point.
Gage Groskwitz runs up on him.
Later on, yes.
As he's going down Sheridan Road. I mean, from the time Mr. Rosenbaum chases him till the time he turns himself into the police, or attempts to turn himself into the police at 60th and Sheridan Road, we're talking about less than 4 minutes, correct?
Yes.
He heads down Sheridan Road in a northerly direction. There might have been a slight raise. Something caught his attention to his left.
Yes.
Okay, does not fire.
Correct.
Heads down the road. Gage Groskwitz, with his cell phone, gets right up in Kyle's face, correct?
Yes.
And says, "What are you doing? Did you just shoot that guy?"
Yeah.
Objection on it, calls for
Hearsay.
It doesn't make an assertion. It asks a question. A hearsay is an assertion.
But
You hear that question, correct?
Yes.
And my client says he's going to the police.
objection, Your Honor, that is hearsay.
It's a statement of a party opponent for completeness.
It's not a statement.
He
of
put-
fact.
Wait,
the defendant.
wait. Now, what was the question again?
What was my client's response to Mr. Groskwitz? Mr.
Stop.
Okay.
And what was your objection?
Hearsay. The defense can't introduce
No.
the defendant's own statements.
It's not a statement of a party opponent.
He went into it under the doctrine of completeness. I said 2 grounds. I'll go with completeness, Your Honor. He went into the statement.
I'm so sorry. Judge, you said something, say the date.
Okay. How much more do you have, by the way?
Page, which doesn't mean
A page means nothing.
10 minutes. Let's say 10 minutes, Judge.
A page with a lawyer could be very long.
I write very small.
You know what, maybe it would be prudent to stop now. You just mentioned about late in the day, and this reporter is heroic, and the jurors are too. So we wouldn't finish before 5 anyway, considering. So let's break for the evening, and please don't talk about the case. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. Very rigid enforcement of the rules. Yeah, but you're not going anywhere. Just sit tight for a few minutes. You can step down. Return tomorrow morning, please. Is Scott Wilson in the room? Scott Wilson. Okay. Is there anything else from the lawyers before we leave?
No, you're not by us, Your
We
Honor.
need to resolve that objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to ask you guys to stick around. Ask the clerk to come down, deal with the. I'm going to excuse everybody else. Well, that's not going to work because they want to cover the argument. But that can be. She can deal with the jurors and the. Try to go up to the 3rd floor. Why don't you go up to the 3rd floor and we'll see you tomorrow.
upstairs.
Oh. Why don't you take them up on the elevator? Pardon me? Yeah, escort them out. Yeah, deputy to escort the jurors, 2 jurors, to the 3rd floor, so they can be with the other jurors. Where are they now? Are they in the back here? Okay, yeah. All right, do you need a little 2 minutes or 3 minutes, or do you want to just finish up?
I'd like to finish up if that's okay.
No, I'm talking to Ms.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking.
Yeah, let's finish it up then.
Oh, that was
All right. Now let's see. The question asked was, are you just going, what was it? Are you just going to,
Did you just shoot that guy?
yeah?
I'm just going to turn myself into the police. And I was informed by co-counsel that the state already put that statement in.
Oh, is that so?
And it's, yes, and it was marked as an exhibit and introduced.
Is that so?
No. That is from the Gage Grosskreutz live stream. That has not been marked or introduced yet.
Wait, what live stream was it?
That's
true. Correct? I have not.
Okay.
Ms. Wisco's agreeing with me. I have not marked or introduced that exhibit yet.
It's Exhibit 3.
It was referred to.
It was referred to.
Yes.
Well, that's,
That's my fault.
I have not mentioned
Okay.
it. I have not asked
So-
questions about it, and it's not in evidence.
say again, go back. Let's go back to the original question, which I overruled the objection. What was the content of that again? I want to get this perfect. All right, well, ask Mrs. Howell.
What was my client's response to Mr.?
No, I had of that.
Oh. Okay, well, it says, heads down the road, Gage Grosskreutz with his cell phone gets right up in Kyle's face, correct? The answer is yes. And then he says,
hold on,
and then
hold
he
on, hold
says,
on.
and this is the next one. I just
Okay.
wanted to give you context, Judge, I'm sorry.
I know it, and I just wanted you to use the microphone.
Oh, I don't
Ah,
have my.
is there one available? Read what you just read and then finish up.
Okay. Okay, so he says, heads down the road, Gage Grosskreutz, whatever, with his cell phone gets right up in Kyle's face, correct? Answer yes. And says, what are you doing? Did you just shoot that guy?
What are you doing? Did you just shoot that guy?
Yeah.
Okay, now what was the
And then
response?
it was
Just speak up.
objection.
Just speak up.
Just
What?
because it's by the speakers, I'm just. Here.
I'll be your mic operator.
Okay.
You just talk.
Heads down the road, Gage Grosskreutz with his cell phone gets right up in Kyle's face, correct? Answer yes. And says, what are you doing? Did you just shoot that guy? And then Mr. Binger objects to that.
Okay, and that was overruled. And then what was the next question?
What do you say?
You say, what is your objection?
This question calls for the defendant's statement. The defendant's.
The defense can't introduce
Sorry.
a defendant's statement. And then, I'm sorry, I kind of didn't get what the judge said. That's why I asked.
Are you ready?
I'm
To keep
ready.
on with new stuff? Okay. Your Honor, first of all, I didn't ask any questions about any of this to Detective Howard. So I haven't opened the door. The objection to the question that was asked by Mr. Grosskreutz, the defendant, that objection was overruled. So there is a statement or something in the record about what Mr. Grosskreutz asked the defendant. Now, this question that I have objected to and that is pending before the court is what the defendant's response was. That calls for the defendant's statement. It is hearsay. It does not fall under any exception. In a criminal case, the defense cannot introduce the defendant's statements. So that's my objection, Your Honor. It's clearly hearsay.
And now what's your justification?
I believe it was gone into. I could be wrong, as I said.
Well,
It's like,
let's skip over that. You can research that overnight.
Right.
Hear him in the mic.
You know what, let's take this up in the morning.
thank you.
We'll take it up in the morning.
Okay, there's one other issue I'd like to put on the record.
Briefly.
Yes, you had advised us earlier today of an issue with regard to juror number 7. And a joke he attempted to tell to a deputy after court yesterday.
Well, that was what was reported to me, and I haven't heard the juror's side of it.
Okay. I believe that it would be appropriate for the state to move to strike that juror for cause. And I can explain further if you'd like to now.
Is the request closed?
Yeah.
Okay. We will also take that up in the morning.
Okay.